Most famous people see this on a daily basis. They get spammed with emails every single day. All these clients like Gmail and Outlook, they suck at organizing these emails. So using N8N, I crafted a solution for this. Every single time a new email comes in, it gets automatically sorted in the right folder. Now, everything is sorted by topic. Do you see how much better this is? I'm gonna send this shit to each and every influencer I know. And you should too. But before I do that, let me guide you through the entire process. Be sure to use the chapter markers below to skip to whatever part you want to watch. Are you ready? Let's go. To get the system working on your computer, you're going to have to do two things. Number one is to create a Google credential for this file. The docs explain everything. You just need to follow it and you'll be fine. The second thing you're going to have to do is create an empty Google Sheet with two columns here. One is going to say ID and the other is going to say status. Okay? When you get your new workflow, you're going to have to set up all these credentials for the Google stuff. So for Gmail and for Sheets. And it's really easy if you know what you're doing and if you follow the docs. So our workflow is divided in two sections, all right? Step one is where we set up the labels, okay? Let me show you how that works. So you see how we have no labels here? That's exactly what we're gonna fix with this, with step one. Let's run it live to show you how this works. We're gonna click on test workflow and it's gonna do everything, okay? If we go back to the Gmail application and we hit it with a refresh, we will see all these new labels here created for us, which is exactly what we want. Now let's see how this works. We have here a manual trigger that when clicked on, it's going to fetch all the existing Gmail labels that currently exist with that Gmail account. Okay, so you can see your chat, sent, inbox, okay, whatever. This is all bullshit. It doesn't really work. Maybe the important one, but that's it. Okay, so the way this works is that we do a get many operation on the labels. Then the next step in this workflow, okay, so you see that it sent 14 items through to this next part, find missing labels. Now the way this works is that I've created some JavaScript right here. Spoiler alert, we'll get to this part, no worries. But what it does is it checks for labels that we need to add to our Gmail, the ones that are missing at least. So it will go ahead and it will find all the labels that are not in this list. Then what it's going to do, it's going to loop through each and every one of these labels, these ones that it didn't find. So if we click on all, we can see these were the labels that it didn't find in your Gmail account. Then we take each and every one of the labels that we didn't find, and then we just add it to the Gmail account. We do this by using a create option and then taking the JSON.label, so the label here, for each and every one of the labels that were missing. Simple, right? This is a one-time thing. You just need to do this once and then you will have the labels in your email account right here. That's great. Let's move on to the actual brains of this operation. So, our main workflow is organized in two steps. Spoiler alert, this process down here is very time consuming in the world of web dev and systems. So, it was really key that we divided this up and that we didn't do it for each and every email in one go. Now you probably already know, but N8N has a Gmail trigger right here that'll literally fetch the last email that you like in your inbox, right? It doesn't matter if it was read or not. It just fetches the last one. What we get is some cool metadata that we can use in our workflow. Let me show you. For this first line, every single time a new email comes into our inbox, what we do is that we put it in Google Sheets, okay? So we take this new email, okay? And then we add a Google Sheets node right here that basically appends a row to your sheet that we defined earlier. And what we do is that we take this ID of the message here and we store it. We add a new row with this message ID right here and with a status ready. Okay, so if I test this, we go to our Excel sheet, we see here, right here, that we add the ID of the email with a status of ready. We do this in the form of a cache. We do this because we want this to simulate some sort of cache. Now, if you don't know what a cache is, it's just somewhere where you put in some stuff to use later. But for the nerdy guys out there, you know exactly what we're doing. We're creating a log of tasks that we need to do without overloading the Gmail trigger. That's really important because then it gets flaky and it doesn't work properly. Okay, so let's repeat. The only thing that this mini workflow does is that every time a new mail is sent to our inbox, it just adds a record to it in our Excel sheet. Okay, so we have an ID here and a status ready here, okay? The next part of our workflow here is the main part of our workflow. We start off with a schedule trigger. This runs every 15 seconds. Why? Well, after running this workflow a few times, I realized that this takes about 10 seconds. So to be safe, I just put 15 right there. The first thing that we do is that we read the sheet, okay? We read it and we try to find, what we do here is that we get the rows here from our cache, from our email ID cache. And the filter that we put is that from the status column, we want to find the next the next row that is ready. You see? And then what we get is a one row, or however many rows that you have, of emails that need to be processed. We get the ID and we get the status. Make sense? Cool. Then what we do is that we go to Gmail and we find that email. So if we test it out, we find the email right here, which is very nice. The way we do that is by using this ID and then dropping it right here in message ID. We use the get message node from N8N. Cool? All right. Now for the big boy stuff. Now that we have the email, we use an information extractor node from N8N that allows us to, we first obviously have to connect a model to it. So I added OpenAI. You can just use like GPT-4 or GPT-4 mini, whatever. I noticed that GPT-4o is way better at this task than GPT-4o mini. So I'm using this. Also, in order to be really accurate and to not hallucinate that much, I put a temperature of 0, which gives us some sort of consistency with our results. So make sure to do that. So moving on to the information extractor, right? What are we doing here? Let me show you. So from the email ID that we have, what we're doing is that we're injecting this prompt in here. So I say, this is the email text, and these are the instructions. I include the subject, the from, and the body of the email right here, okay? Then in instructions, you can read it right here. I just tell it to score. I just tell it to score the email based off of some attributes that I told it to score on, which are these. Okay, so I say, hey, these are all the categories and these are all the subcategories that I want. This is just an example, right? All these values and stuff. I also ask it to extract some topics and then some metadata, like is it spam or is it urgent? And if so, if it's urgent, how urgent is it? This is useful for our processing later on. So yeah, once we get this email, then it parses it through this information. It passes it on to this information extraction. And if we press on test step, let's see what happens. It then gives us this JSON list of attributes. You can see that this email right here was apparently spam. It was just a cold email trying to get my attention. So you can see it just added these attributes perfectly. By the way, just a reminder, link in the description, man. It's all for free. You can just go grab it and use it. Okay, so the next part is flattening our schema. Now I had to code for this, but luckily for you, it's in the description. You don't need to do it yourself. What we get here is then this JSON object of all these attributes, right? So I wrote some code here that basically took this JSON object, and if we run test step, we can see that all this does is it just returns it as a list, as a JSON list of these key value pairs. Okay, the key being the dot notation form of this path. So output.categories.business collaboration inquiries.paid partnership. Okay, and then I omitted output from the JSON. And these are just the categories, right? So these are just the categories. So basically I have one key and one value, which we're going to use later in our processing. So, which is super cool. Next, for each of these keys that we just had, we're going to loop over them and we're going to do two things. Number one, we're going to check if we just click on test step, we're going to get one of these at a time and we're going to check if the value here, if this JSON.value here is greater than 0. If it's greater than 0, that means that the OpenAI, that GPT-4o determined that this was a valid key, a valid label to put on this email. If that resolves to true, then we continue. But if that was false, which is in this case, that's the case, right? This is a 0, then it just goes on to the next item. So in this case, it's true, right? So what do? We get all the labels. We get all the labels from Gmail, from our system. These are all the labels that we have. Right? All of these labels right here. Okay. And then what we do is we find the corresponding ID of that label. So I wrote some custom code just to do that. All labels will be all the labels in our Gmail account. And then we go to this if, this key from that if statement early on, if you remember, this one, and we try to find this key right here, okay? What we do is then we try to find the internal ID that Google stores for that particular label. You can see here, because we have an ID, we have a name, we have all this other metadata that we don't really care about, right? So we have this part, this name, but we need the ID. So what this code does is it finds the object with that name and it returns the ID right here in the output. So if I test it, you will see that this one is labeled 41. That's all that this node is doing. The next part is then adding that message. So we find from that find message by ID step, we then add the label with that particular ID. So if I click that step, boom, it adds it. And then it shows up in Gmail as that label. So if I refresh, you can see promotional cold out mail, all that bullshit. And that's nice. You see, that's how that works. And then lastly, the most important step, in my opinion, is that what we do is that we take the results. So if that was successful, what we do is then we go to the Gmail, and we fix the status. We update the status to done, so that in the next iteration of this workflow, it ignores that one. So you can see here, we take the Google Sheets node, we get the spreadsheet of email ID cache, okay? And then we find the ID of that email, okay? And then we update the status to done. That's it. So that's it. You see? Another path that I want to talk about is this one. From this information extraction, the output is obviously this JSON. This very important JSON, right? With all the scores. I also add a path to this workflow right here, mini sub workflow right here. So what I do is that I filter out all the categories and I just send through the metadata that we just talked about, right? These metadata things. And then what I want is a node that can tell me if it's urgent, which is here. Is it urgent or is it spam? And we make this difference. If it is spam, we do nothing. We just do nothing, and then we tell the Google Sheets to update the status of that particular email ID to done, right? Makes sense. However, if it is urgent, so if JSON output is urgent is true, you see, if JSON output is urgent is true, then we want to say yes to is urgent. We want the system to say yes, it's urgent. If it is urgent, then what it does is it just sends me an SMS using the 7 node. This node from 7. You can set it up in the guide. It's not that hard. You see? So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's exactly how this workflow works. All right, so we're going to test it out now. I'm going to click on activate. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my other computer. I'm going to open up a script that I wrote to send emails through. Okay, so I'm going to click on, I'm going to say send me 20 emails. All right, I'm going to click 20 emails, and now it's sending me 20 emails. And now let's just look at this Google Sheets. I'm getting buzzed everywhere. Okay, you see it's adding all these things. I'll cut back to you when it's done. I'm getting all these emails. See that? Okay, so you can see it added all these email IDs here with the status of being ready. Okay, and if I look at N8N and I look at the executions, you can see that it is actually working. You can see that this one was a successful run. You can see this request took about 6 minutes. And if I refresh in my inbox, you can see that it's starting to subcategorize everything in the folders. You can see here, it's subcategorizing everything. You see important family news, it puts into personal stories. Please forward appropriately. It's cold outreach, right? Spam, right? So, so this is, for example, a dummy email that says, hey, you show up on TV. This is press media request. Super cool, right? Super cool. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's a really cool way to automate and solve a problem for influencers or whoever you're going to solve problems for. Lastly, also, you can see it's updating everything to done as soon as it finishes. Super great. This workflow was super easy to build. If you're looking for any help in building your own workflows, click the link below in the description. I'm more than happy to see if we can collaborate and make some magic happen. I really want us to build some useful shit instead of the bullshit that we see on the internet like TikTok and stuff like that. So whatever automation ideas you have, let me know. Speaking of being useful, I swear to God, man, like people don't understand that now today with all these tools that we have, all this technology around us like N8N, ChatGPT, Claude, Cursor, etc. You have so much power. Chances are that if you're watching this video, you're a technical guy. You and I, like we love building solutions from scratch. We have this innate ability to pull out solutions from thin air like this one. I know for a fact that it's a gigantic problem for influencers. And you know what? This is what sets us apart from everyone else. Being able to do this from scratch is what makes us different. I'd like to take this time to actually take the time to tell you, dude, go build stuff. Go be useful to society. I know you have that in you, man. Build things that are actually like that once people install on their own, computers or whatever, that they feel a bit better when they wake up in the morning, because everyone's stressed out there, everybody. And these solutions that we build will make them feel better. And that is the gift that the universe has given us. A gift. So dude, take it easy. I'm going to check you in the next video. If you like this video, you know what to do already. I'm not going to tell you. Hint, hint. No, but I'm being serious. Let me know in the comments below what kind of automations you want to see in the next video. I'm super curious. By the way, this is the first automation I built in N8N, and it took me, a few hours. Most of it was just to learn how they do things. But this is super cool, and I'm super excited to see what we can make in the future. Okay, let me know. Peace out. Take care. Let's see if this shit is done. Look, it's done, man. That's super sick, right? Super sick. Cool. Let's see. Look at that, man. Most of it is spam, but that's super cool. Anyways, take it easy, man. Link in the description. Link in the description. Take it easy. Love you. Take care. Bye.